Hi, this is Monique, also known as Miss Neek or Miss Neek Revamp, and I am a survivor of child. I am a survivor of, teen pregnancy, suicide. My upbringing was very challenging. There was a time when I remember my parents weren't getting along. I remember arguing. I remember my mom crying. I remember things like my mom calling and asking my daddy when he was coming home because he just wasn't coming home. Like he would go to work and I don't know where else he ended up. My mom was very isolated. I guess she felt judged by her family, so she didn't really feel comfortable talking to them about what was going on in her marriage. So she didn't really have anybody to talk to. She didn't have any friends because my father did not allow her to have friends. I didn't know that until I got older. So I was my mother's best friend, literally. And when she needed somebody to talk to, she talked to me, even though I was like 7. I remember being told that he was cheating. And she was real upset, like real upset. I remember hearing her yelling through the phone, well, come get your then I guess we're done. And I never heard my mom talk like that. My mom used to be a really good mom. She really was, like, incredibly attentive to us, myself and my sister. So I remember this day, my dad and his friend came over to the house. I was super happy to see my dad, of course, like I hadn't seen him. Super duper happy to see him. And I remember he, kind of gave me a dry hug, but then kind of pushed by me to to kind of get with my mother or whatever the case may be. Now prior to this, I had never seen anything physical happen between my parents. My mother said, you guys go upstairs in your room and play. I guess she knew what was going to happen. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Or she was just trying to protect us from whatever was going to happen. And so, we didn't want to go upstairs because daddy just came home. So, we want to be down here with daddy. And he said very aggressively, go get in your room, And so I grabbed my little sister and we went upstairs. We went to our room. He was like, go to bed. So we went in our room and we went and laid down in our bed, and I could hear arguing. I hear lots and lots of argument from downstairs. And I remember my mom saying, well, if you're going to leave, just get and leave. And remember, my dad had a friend with him. So I'm thinking like, well, why I don't hear that man? Like, why is he not saying anything or whatever? Well, ultimately, I hear the door slam. And so I think nothing of it. I'm crying because I'm like, daddy gone now. You know what I mean? Like, because I hear her saying, leave. And I'm like, I know that he's gone. A few minutes later, my daddy is climbing through my bedroom window. And of course, I'm startled. I'm like, daddy. And he's like, shh, lay down, baby, lay down. He comes in through my window, goes out of my bedroom door, goes downstairs, and all I hear is a huge ruckus. I hear it seemed like the house was being moved. And so, of course, startled, I run downstairs. You know what I'm saying? But I don't go all the way downstairs at first. I kind of go to the stairs, and I kind of peer out of the spindles. And when I see, I will never ever, unfortunately, ever be able to get out of my mind. I saw my mother laying on the kitchen floor and my father mounted on top of her, and he was doing this to her head, to the floor. And I saw his friend standing right over, not trying to stop it, not breaking it up, not getting in the middle, nothing. All I hear him saying is, come on, low down, come on. Like, not doing anything else to intervene in that. So, of course, when I see that as a child, I immediately fly down the stairs and I'm literally screaming, stop, because I don't know, but I know this ain't right. You know what I'm saying? I'm just like, stop. And I'm yelling and I'm screaming and I'm saying, daddy, like, get off of her. And the look in his eyes, it was like he didn't even see me there. So the only thing I knew to do was call my grandmother, my mother's mother, who lived like 3 blocks away. And so that's all I could do, because I think my mother told me to call the police. But he said, you better not call the police. So I called my grandmother, who to me is the police. You know what I'm saying? And so I called my grandmother, and she was like, well, because I'm hysterical. My grandmother's never heard me this way. I'm hysterical. I don't know. And so she's like, what's wrong? And I'm like, my daddy and my mama, they fighting. They fighting him like he's on top of her and this, that, and the other thing. And when I tell you, my grandmother at the time was a very heavy set woman, okay? Maybe almost 300 pounds, if not 300 pounds, like a very heavy set woman. And like I said, she lived about 3 blocks away. Baby, when I tell you, it seemed like my grandmother was outside the door because she got there that fast. Like, it seemed like I hung up from her and she was there. Like, I don't know if grandma ran. I ain't never seen grandma run before or whatever the case may be. But I'm telling you that it seemed in my little mind, she was there quick. And when she got there, of course, he was still like kind of bullying, bullying over my mama. And I want to say that he was still on top of my mother, actually, because what I remember is my grandmother grabbing him, lifting him up, and saying, if you don't get your hands off my daughter, you better. That's what I heard her say. And I heard him say something disrespectful to her, and all I saw, now my father is 6'3.5", my grandmother probably 5'5". I saw her lift this man off his feet up against the wall. Now, that might have been my 7-year-old imagination. What I saw, but I'm telling you what I saw. And it is how I remember it. It's always how I remembered it. And all I know is that he never came back after that day. Like, he never came back after that day. My mother continued to try to, like, co-parent, or whatever the case may be. My mama had a very hard time, being single. You know what I'm saying? Like, because since she was 16, she had been with this man. Now this is her husband and she has 2 children with him. You know what I'm saying? And a home. And I saw my mother doing things that I was very proud of, right? I saw my mom finally have friends, right? She had one good girlfriend. Oh my God. Me and her sons the same age. Like, we kind of grew up around each other. Anyway, she was always mama's friend at that time, but she just wasn't able to actively like hang out with her. You know what I'm saying? But so they were high school friends and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? So she was able to start hanging out with this friend, kind of getting into her femininity, and stuff like that. And so mom started getting her nails done, which she hadn't done before. Mom experimented with wearing makeup, just things that I feel like she should have been able to do. She should have been doing like the whole time, you know what I'm saying? But knowing now the insecurities of my father did not allow her to, to dress herself up or be pretty. Ultimately that led to her finally meeting someone. And my mama, she did it the right way. This man wanted to be with her. He courted her. She made him court her. You know what I'm saying? She went out with him several times, like over a course of months. Never brought him home. When she finally decided that, she was serious about him, she brought him home to meet us. We all had dinner. He was a good guy. He had good energy. He was very engaging with myself and my sister. You know what I'm saying? He gave me good vibes. Like, he was coming over more. Obviously at this point, my sister and I have given our seal of approval, so to speak, right? And so mom feels comfortable dating him. To me, things moved fast. Like, we lived in our apartment, I don't even know how long, but we didn't really ever have furniture. We had furniture, we had beds and things like that. And we had like my grandmother, I believe my grandmother's like old couch and stuff like that, because my grandmother had gotten new furniture. So we had like hand-me-down furniture. It was nice. It was what we had. You know what I'm saying? We made the best of it. But I remember when he moved in, for the sake of this story, I'm going to call him Chester. So when he moved in, he had this beautiful furniture. Oh my God, it was the first time I'd ever seen velvet furniture. He had like this deep blue velvet, like sectional with an ottoman. I mean, honey, he came and hooked our house up. Okay, his furniture was honey. okay, he's got taste. Mama always liked him because he was a good dresser. You know what I'm saying? So they were enjoying each other and stuff like that. I don't remember having a whole lot of interactions with him. Like, my memory, and probably some of it has been suppressed because of the ultimate trauma I did, encounter at the hands of this man. But I will say that not long after they met, my mother ended up pregnant. And I felt like I didn't see my mother that much. Like, my mom didn't have a job. She was in the home, but I never saw her. Also know that he put bars up to our windows. He put bars, and he did that because he knew that my dad had creeped in my window that day. He had assaulted my mother. I didn't know how I felt about the bars, because we had never had bars before. He also put a lock on my mother's door. Now, we've always been able to just come in and out of my mother's room freely, even my daddy at home. We just freely go in and out of my mother's room, her bedroom door. And I didn't understand that, but I'm 7, almost 8 years old. I don't know what's happening. You know what I'm saying? These are immediate things that when I look back at it, you know what I'm saying, were probably red flags, but I'm a kid. You know what I mean? Like, what am I? I don't know. My mom started becoming kind of like angry. And this was different. My mama wasn't an angry person before. Even despite going through whatever she went through with my father, she was so loving, so soft. My mama never whooped us. Never. And so one day, I came home from school, and I used to always come in through the back door. There was a bed in the pantry. I look closer, it's my bed. My bed has now been pulled from my bedroom to the pantry. And I was like, what the hell? Wait, what? Chester convinces my mom that I want my own room and I should get it. And that he can move my bedroom down to the pantry, right? Which wasn't really being used for anything. When I tell you I was against it, I didn't want to be in a pantry. I mean, any places I didn't want to be in a pantry. I want to say that it was within that first week that my bed was in the pantry. We only had one bathroom, and that was upstairs where the bedrooms were. And I had to go to use the bathroom. So I had to leave the pantry, my bedroom, and go up the stairs to go to the bathroom. Well, as I started to climb up the stairs, Chester, in his robe, I guess was coming down the stairs. He saw me, and it startled me because this man was very, very dark. So in the dark, you can't really see him. I see his red robe, you know what I'm saying? And so I'm going up, and I kind of stop, you know what I'm saying, and flinch. And Chester stood at the top of the stairs, knowing that I'm coming up the stairs, and opened his robe, revealing his entire anatomy to me. I was stuck. I didn't even know what to do. I was stuck, like literally stuck. I bet you I didn't take up them stairs. I walked right back down them steps, got in my bed. And I remember laying there petrified. I did not know why he did that. I don't know why. I didn't know what's going to happen. I didn't know. I didn't really know what was happening. So I was petrified. I laid there shaking. I don't even know what to say. You know what I'm saying? I didn't say anything the next day or anything like that. But I knew that was wrong. So I want to say a couple of days later, I was going to go upstairs again to use the bathroom. My mother was asleep. My sister was asleep. I was going to go ahead and go up to the bathroom, but he had come downstairs to the kitchen, maybe to throw something away or whatever, and he came in to the pantry and, was talking to me or whatever. And anyway, I don't even remember like the conversation. That's how irrelevant the conversation was to me. But I can tell you that he asked me if he could check me. And I said, what you need to check me for? Check me for what? But I just knew that it felt wrong. You know what I'm saying? Like, I knew that it was wrong. Whatever he wanted to do, I just knew that it was wrong. He laid me down on my bed. I had a nightgown on. I had like a Care Bears nightgown on. And I had my undies on. And I remember him removing my undies and me, grabbing them like, no, like, what are you doing? Like, or whatever. But he got him off me. You know, I don't know if whatever he said, he got him off me. You know what I'm saying? And I remember him saying, if it hurt, I'll stop. That's exactly what he said. If it hurt, I'll stop. This man proceeded to try to me with his anatomy, which did not budge, did not do anything, did not nothing. You understand what I'm saying? I'm backing all the way up off the bed, you know, but he wasn't content with that, right? So when his anatomy wouldn't, you know what I mean, do anything, he said, well, come here, let me use my finger. So he said, you know, again, if it hurt, I'll stop. This man went and grabbed some petroleum jelly. He smeared it on his finger, and he proceeded to enter my little 8-year-old body with his finger. That did pierce me. It was almost like as soon as it was, you know, like too much, you know, like cause he kind of had me like bared down. It was not, I wasn't no running, you know what I mean? Like wasn't no, I'm this puny little, you know, 8-year-old, you know, like wasn't no getting away from it. You get what I'm saying? And my mother was right upstairs. My mother and my sister are upstairs. And I'm like crying and everything, but she don't hear it. You know, he was like, you know, if you tell your mama, she not gonna believe you, right? That's literally what he told me. He said, you know, if you tell your mom, if you say something, you know she not gonna believe you. He said, you see how I had her whooping you? I'll have her do that again. Like, she just not gonna believe you. And how am I not to believe that? How am I not to believe that? Like, this man literally talked my mama through my whooping. Like, how do I not believe that? So one day, one rare day, my mother let me go over to my grandmother's house to get my hair washed. The Dare people came to our school, and this was the first time I ever, you know, really heard about stranger danger. This was also the first time I had learned that what was happening to me was called, and that it was bad. And the cop that was talking to us was a woman, and she was explaining to us that it's usually people that we know, people close to us, family members and stuff like that. When she said that, a light bulb popped off in my head. I knew what he did was wrong, but I just didn't know how to express or explain it or say what it was. I didn't know. And of course I knew my mother wouldn't believe me, but I didn't have anybody else to go to. But knowing that day that I was going to go get my hair washed by my grandmother, I said, oh baby, that's my savior right there. So when my grandmother washed my hair, when she was done with the second conditioning, I told her, I said, Mama, I got to tell you something. And so she was like, what's wrong? What's going on? And, you know, to talk to her while she was washing my hair. And I was like, no, I need to tell you this in private. Like, this is between me and you. We were at my aunt's house. And so, you know, when she was done, my grandmother, she just knew. She knew it was going to be bad. So I went and told my grandmother exactly what happened in front of my auntie. The anger and the fury that came out of that room, you would not even imagine. My grandmother went downstairs, called my mother, and told my mother. She said, you need to listen to your daughter. Listen to what she got to say. And she said, baby, tell your mother what happened. Now, I told my mother what happened. And I promise you, it was almost like it was rehearsed. My mother called me every line, little that you could ever hear. My mother didn't have conversations like that with me. You understand what I'm saying? I was a liar. I probably wanted it. Like all those sorts of things. My grandmother didn't send me back to that house. Moving forward, right? Ultimately, we ended up, meaning because of what happened in my mother's reaction, my grandmother took me to CPS or whatever. They did an investigation. We ultimately were removed. My siblings were removed because I was removed, you know, even though I was the person that things were happening to. Because on top of being assaulted by her boyfriend, I was being physically assaulted by my mother. You know what I'm saying? So because of what was happening to me, everyone was removed from the family. Ultimately, I ended up from family member to family member to family member. And then ultimately in a what they call bad girls home at one point. You know, wasn't because I was bad, but my family had labeled me, and it just seemed like no matter who I went to, they all just that same label just followed me wherever family member. You know what I'm saying? At 15, I felt out. I felt like I was in the world by myself. You know, just trying to I was family. At this point, I was only being used for the paycheck that they were getting from the state, to take care of me. I kind of bounced around. I bounced all over the place for a while. And I was able to kind of stay with one of my mom's other sisters, but not really. Kind of stay there, but not really. I was kind of just bouncing from friend to friend. I had adult friends who had their own places and stuff. And then ultimately, I end up in a relationship with who I call my children's donor, so my oldest children's father. And at 17, I got pregnant with my daughter, who I have now. And ultimately have 3 children by him. But that was a domestic relationship. I was 17, he was 21. He was already at 21 years old. That was just tumultuous. I knew if I didn't get out that relationship, I was gonna kill him because he was very, very aggressive, and I'm not the type to just sit back and get punched on. So I fought back. You know what I'm saying? We moved states. I've lived in shelters with my children just to be able to make ends meet, just to be able to find us our own homes. Thankfully, that has only happened twice, and they were very young, so they virtually have no memory of that. From this experience, and this is real condensed because I'm missing a lot of stuff, but from all of these things that I've had to live through and experience and go through, I published my memoir, which is entitled If My Past Wasn't So Dark, My Future Wouldn't Shine So Bright. I published that book when I met my husband, who is now my husband, because I realized that he was a good man. I didn't like him, and I didn't know why I didn't feel like I could love him. And so me questioning why I didn't feel like I could love him made me start to kind of dig into myself and kind of figure out, okay, what's wrong with you? Like, why you can't love this man? He go to work every day. He treats you good. Kids love him. Like, what's wrong with you? And so I kind of started picking at myself. And that's when I realized I had all of this compressed trauma that I had never dealt with, that I thought was gone because I'm older now and I know better and nobody's going to hurt me now, I thought. And so I started manually writing my story, and he bought me my first laptop, and I wrote out that story. If my past wasn't so dark, my future wouldn't shine so bright. From that memoir, I was able to fall in love with him because I was now able to see what was wrong with me, and kind of literally identify it. And I was able to give those pains a sound, give them a feeling, give them a place, you know what I'm saying? And actually get them out of me, and stuff like that. I was able to do something with it that I had never done. That writing that book led me to social media, where I have shared my story over and over and over again, because I wished I had somebody that I could have known or even heard of that was going through half the stuff that I was going through as a child. I didn't. I would love to say that Chester was the only person that ever touched me, but that's wrong. My aunt's boyfriends, they also touched me. Okay? What I really want anybody that's watching this story right now, right? I really want you all to understand the power of forgiveness. That's something that I have learned on this journey of healing. That forgiveness is everything. And let me explain something to you. Forgiveness is not for the other person. Baby, forgiveness is for you. And I'm telling you that if I did not own the ability to forgive while I was reliving everything and allowing it to have a place and a sound and a feeling, I would not be who I am. Forgiveness is everything. I told you about my father being an absentee father. Well, he's in the other room right now as we speak. You understand what I'm saying? Forgiveness allows me to have a heart to still love on my father despite the fact that he didn't love on me how I needed him to. For many, many years, I resented my father after a while and started to literally hate him because I felt like as a father, his one job was to be there to protect me. And had he been in the home protecting his princesses like he was supposed to, those other men would have never been able to take advantage of me. However, hey, You got to learn how to forgive people because he was young. He made mistakes. My mother, I forgave her. My mother and I have a good relationship to this day. She was just here, literally just left yesterday, right? I was able to forgive these people because these are people I choose to have in my life. My parents have done nothing for me that I need them for other than bring me into this world. You understand what I'm saying? But I still choose to have them in my life because with boundaries, I want my children to be able to experience their grandparents. And at the end of the day, like I told my mom and like I told my father, this is your opportunity to get it right. And even though I make mistakes, I'm getting up every day and I'm still choosing to keep moving and to keep going forward. And I choose every day. I see my babies and I choose every day and I show them that parenting is not easy and parenting is not always a perfect science. But as long as I keep choosing you and you keep choosing me, then it's worth it at the end of the day. And that's really what I want everybody to know. I don't care what you're going through, baby. There is life later.